God, I'm telling you, my dogs are barking today.
But man, my dogs are barking.
Well, welcome in to the My Dogs Are Barking podcast, and welcome into State of the Dogs, a Mississippi State Bulldogs podcast. And man, we are in week 4 of State of the Dogs as we give a very brief recap of the blowout Toledo loss, but also give kind of a preview for the Florida game and also kind of an outlook on the season. Mississippi State on this past Saturday, September the 14th, suffered what many people would consider to be one of the worst losses in Mississippi State history. And it's not because Toledo is a very bad team. In fact, I mean, I'd argue Toledo is going to be at the very top of the MAC, could even be vying for a potential playoff spot. You know, this is a good team, but that's not really the reason that we. I say that because I don't want to minimize Mississippi State's loss as if, well, it's just a really good team. And Toledo, I believe, is a very good team. I think what Mississippi State fans are seeing, though, is that this is a part of a rebuild that we really do not want to deal with. And let me just take just a minute, just 60 seconds on this. I think I can kind of explain it fairly well. Unmet expectations in any relationship will hurt the health of that relationship. In any marriage, any relationship, any friendship, any job, when expectations are not met, that's when problems happen. Sometimes the expectations just have to do with not communicating, with not really understanding the other side. You think about it, say a husband, it's Friday night. He's been thinking Friday, man, he's going to be home. He's going to be watching, football. He's been thinking all day at work. He's ready to get home and just hang out, not go anywhere. Maybe his wife all day at work has been thinking, man, I can't wait to go out tonight. And all day long, they've been thinking about this is what's going to happen. Well, as you can see, at the end of the day, somewhere along the way, there's going to be some unmet expectations. That's when problems start to happen. Communication is very important in avoiding that. I think for Mississippi State fans, the expectations have now become a reality. This is not a bowl team. This is a team that if they hit 4 wins, it would be huge. I think the expectations for this team, obviously, now how could we have known on the front end, but are much lower than what we anticipated. Now, part of it, the defense, I think Mississippi State fans did a decent job, myself included here, on painting their expectations of the defense as fairly accurate. We knew this defense was going to struggle. I don't think any of us knew they were going to be this bad. And really, scheme is one thing. I think scheme we saw did not work in week 2 versus Arizona State, not loading the box and letting Cam Scatterbo, Cam Heisman-Bow, whatever you want to call him, run all over Mississippi State. But this past week versus Toledo, I think what really showed was the lack of talent at every position. I think Isaac Smith is a very good safety. But the Bulldog fans need to go ahead and set their expectations that this is probably not going to be a good team. Now, here's what they cannot do. They cannot say, well, you know what? I'm folding up shop. I'm not supporting this team. Look, if you have the financial means to do so, you need to be at the game, need to be ringing the cowbell, having some fun. If you can, don't want to put yourself in a financial strain. But the Bulldogs need support and need encouragement. And if anything, it's for the future recruits that are coming. And with that, Mississippi State picked up a very big commitment on Saturday night for a 4-star running back for the class of 2026. Now, 2026 is a long way away, so that's one thing. But from start to finish, I don't have to go into too much detail. Start to finish, Toledo dominated Mississippi State. Offensively, Blake Shapen and company, Blake Shapen doesn't have a ton of time to throw. Seems like he is holding on to the ball a little bit longer. I think about the playmakers that Mississippi State has at receiver. Kevin Coleman, just so you know, Kevin Coleman at wide receiver is 3rd in the SEC in receiving yards. And Blake Shapen has not had a 300-yard passing game. Outside of this past week at Toledo, and he barely had over 300 yards. Mississippi State has struggled mightily at running the ball. And sorry, before we even get to that, it seemed like for the offense, even with all those playmakers, they couldn't even get them the ball because of the amount of pressure that Creed was under. That line's not going to work. And obviously this week they're planning on mixing some things up. That'll be great. Honestly, they need to get a run blocking scheme where they can fire off the ball. Johnny Daniels had the most success any running backs have for Mississippi State this season. 10 carries for 59 yards. You're basically averaging 6 yards a carry. But it's garbage time. Toledo's playing somewhat prevent defense. They know they're going to try to pass the ball. And so, maybe Johnny Daniels gives Mississippi State a spark. I think that's the positives. But Mississippi State fans have to, and also, let me just touch on this. Mississippi State is not going to let go of Jeff Lebby because you can't. I think for all of the brilliance that, brilliance is a really strong word. For all of the somewhat football smarts that sports fans have, you sometimes got to think about it. Like, firing your coach is, if you look at message boards of the first drive after every team does not score in the first one, they're like, fire everybody. We got to fire the head coach. Get rid of him. No, he's no good. That's ridiculous. That's not really thinking through it. Mississippi State cannot fire Jeff Lebby because of how bad it would look for future recruits. They're going to have to stick with Jeff Lebby and push through. And I know that's kind of a daunting task. Now, see, that's the bad news. Mississippi State might not win in total two or three games. Looks like the ceiling for this team. Not looking forward to going on the road at Georgia. Not looking forward to going on the road at Texas. Not looking forward to going on the road at Ole Miss. That's the bad news. I think the good news is, as bad as it looks right now, and it looks pretty bad, Mississippi State has Florida coming up this week. Texas the week after that. So for better or for worse, eyes are going to be on Mississippi State. If Mississippi State can find a way to be competitive with these teams, it looks really, really good for the rest of the season and can jar some sort of confidence, because right now there's none. The defensive side of the ball is, not a lot of talent there. But then you bring in the Florida Gators. Lead the pass in the pass. Bring in the Florida Gators this week. They lost 33-20 to Texas A&M. They were losing 20-0 at the end of the first half. Came back and scored 20 points, but it was just not enough. They honestly could not stop Texas A&M. Marcel Reed for A&M looked really good. Le'Veon Moss ran the ball really well. They were able to run the ball very effectively versus Florida. DJ Lagway threw two interceptions. His QBR rating was really bad, 50% on throws. But Graham Mertz was 12 for 15, 195. He played decent, but they really cannot run the ball very well at all. We'll see how it goes this week. I think Mississippi State, this is one of those games where people are predicting, Florida to win and still fire their coach anyway, which would make the third head coach fired after a win versus Mississippi State, following after Gus Malzahn in, 2018? 2019. That was 2019. And then let's see, who was the last season? Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher gets a win over Mississippi State, and then they let him go. So Mississippi State has got an interesting thing. The game is going to be played this Saturday at 11 a.m. kickoff for Mississippi State. Man, if you can get there, just get there and try to support Mississippi State. In the end, I think Florida is going to be able to really do what they want to on the offensive side of the ball. Unfortunately, I think Florida ends up winning this game 31-7. I think Mississippi State's defense is so behind from a talent perspective that they are going to struggle. And it seems like in this game versus Toledo, once the levee started to give a little bit, it just all came crashing down. I'm afraid that's what's going to happen with Mississippi State in Florida. But the Bulldogs need some momentum. Here's the deal. Like, where Mississippi State is right now, they're 1-2. They need a lot of things to go right in order for this season to have a resemblance of something positive. But they're already kind of at the bottom right now, and so the leading rusher on this team for Mississippi State is Kevon Lee. He has a total of 88 yards, and he's the leading rusher. Of course, as I mentioned, I mean Kevin Coleman is a really good bright spot on this team. 268 yards, third in the SEC. At the moment, Florida is only a 5.5-point favorite, which seems illegal, but we'll see how this game goes. As I mentioned, I'm picking Florida to win this game 31-7. I don't think the Bulldogs have it for whatever reason. Offensively, they cannot get going, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Jeff Lebby and company, they've got some issues within the department, within trying to move forward and have something positive. But right now, the transfer portal hauls that you got on defense are no good. The offensive line transfer portal that seemed to be very positive is not. They're just getting shoved around every play, getting blown up, especially in the middle. And so now Mississippi State kind of has a decision to make, and that is not to let go of Jeff Lebby because they cannot, but it's to press forward. Can the Bulldogs do it Saturday morning? I mean, look, crazier things have happened. For this game to even be within 7, like I said, I would be very surprised. I really would. But I think the Bulldogs have an opportunity to at least do some positive things, earn some momentum back. But it looks pretty dull at the moment. And I'll finish with this after this sip. Mississippi State has that loss versus Toledo brought out some Mississippi State results that we have not seen in a long time. I can remember being a part of growing up when Sylvester Croom, towards the end of the Jackie Sherrill era, when I lived in Starkville, and it was pretty bad. But defensively, Mississippi State had some very good pieces. Sylvester Croom on offense was abysmal. But defensively, the defenses for Sylvester Croom were really good, really good. This team does not seem to have many positives at all. The punting's pretty good. I'll give them that. Our touchback rate is decent, but overall, Mississippi State is not have a lot of positive things going forward at the moment. But it's early in the season, and I think if our expectations, we see it right now, that this team might not win 4 games. 4 games would be amazing at this point. If we lean into that and try to find some positives throughout this time, Mississippi State fans, it's really all that they can do. And so we will lean on that. Later on this week, we're going to have a football preview show for the games this weekend with Austin. We'll kind of pick through some games, give you our best watches of the weekend. Probably will not be Mississippi State and Florida. If I had to guess, could be very wrong, but I would not count on it. So thank you guys, as always, for listening to the My Dogs Are Barking podcast and State of the Dogs, week number 4. And look, life is long. If you're lucky and you're blessed, there's a lot better things than football. So don't put all your eggs in that basket, because they'll be broken, especially towards the end of the season. And hey, look, Ole Miss. I just want to set this up for a moment. Ole Miss is having what looks like it's going to be their best season of all time. Can you imagine if Mississippi State finds a way to be competent enough to pull off a miracle upset versus Ole Miss and ruin the perfect season? Look for those little optimistic moments. It doesn't look good at the moment. I understand that. But look for those little moments and see if you can find something to pull out of it. Thanks so much for listening to the My Dogs Are Barking podcast. Hey, catch us at the later part of next week, or this week, I mean. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Our subscribers have gone up by a good bit over this last month and a half. But hey, keep watching, and Hail State.